Hi guys, hope you're all having a great day. Today I'm going to show you how I painted this picture in Procreate using the gouache brush. It's not so much about the brush though, it's all about the movement, the speed of the fairground ride, the flashing lights and the bright colours. So let's get into it. So here we are in Procreate. This picture posed me lots of problems. I knew it would before I started. There was issues that I had to get over. In one, there's no real detail in the photo. I didn't want to paint the whole scene. I just wanted to pick out a little bit of it, and that was the two ladies riding the fairground horses. Everything's really fuzzy. If I zoom in on the photo, it's blurred because there's motion blur. It was poor lighting when I took it. So lots left to the imagination, which suits me, I guess, because then I don't have to worry too much about detail. What I did know that I wanted to achieve, I wanted to get really bright palette and color scheme going off on this one. And I'm using one brush. I'm continuing this sort of mini series, I guess, where I am looking at different brushes to use, and this one's called the gouache brush. Now, when I started to use it, I was surprised, because if you've ever used gouache, you'll know it's a real opaque paint. You can thin it down with what it's water-based. You can thin it with water, and you can make it almost work like a watercolor paint with sort of translucent properties. It isn't. You just thin it down and it's less opaque. So it is an opaque paint. And this brush, if you kept overlaying it and overlaying it, it would build up to be opaque, but it wasn't opaque by default, which kind of surprised me. But then I guess I see where it's coming from, because you can thin it with water and make it like a sort of coloured wash. So I think they've probably gone in the middle ground with this one. So that's all that I need to say about the brush, really. It's a nice brush. I was really happy with the result. I don't know if it's one that I'm going to be using much again. Lots of brushes like it, really. I almost wondered if it was just called the gouache brush for the sake of giving it a name. So it's not my favorite brush, but anyway, I did use it for the whole of the painting, and you'll see that there's quite the photograph. I'm only using a tiny little bit of the scene. You can see in the photograph I got pretty much the old fairground riding, but I only wanted the small bit, and I kept moving the photo around. I should have cropped it, to be honest. I should have taken it into Affinity Photo and cropped the photo before I started, and I didn't. I was dead lazy. I was just using it. I was on the cloud using iCloud, so I didn't want to download it onto my iPad. I was just moving the photo around, so consequently you'll see me changing the size of the horses, the people, quite often, just adjusting them and tweaking them to get the right proportions, because I kept sort of resizing the photo and moving it around, and it's not a good. I don't recommend it to anybody to really try that. If I was you, because it gave me lots of problems where I was sort of resizing stuff all the time. But anyway, back to the painting. I knew that I was going to struggle with detail because there's so much going off and it's a very blurred photo. So I felt that if I concentrate on the horses' heads, get some detail in those, and maybe the sort of detail of the characters, not so much the faces, but sort of spend a bit of time making sure I get in the proportions of the people right and they look good. Everything else could be very, very loose. And I also wanted to get an impression of movement, that this was sort of a fast moving ride. And you'll notice when I crop and move things, I don't use the liquify tool at all with this one. I use the crop tool, and then I use the blending brush, and I set the blending brush to the gouache brush, obviously, because I wanted it to feel as though it was part of the same. I wasn't using a different brush, and there weren't different textures appearing here and there. So I just used the blending brush to then blend the colours back together where I'd cut and paste, and that seems to be a tried and tested method for me. I could do that on this painting because although I worked on many layers, I kept blending them down. As soon as I got something that I was happy with, I blended it down. At the minute, I'm looking at the painting and it all looks a bit dull and a little bit grey, because I did say at the very beginning I wanted this to be a really vibrant painting. So that is now starting to play on my mind as I'm painting. Getting that horse's head in there. There we go. So that took me quite a while. Because of the sort of real fuzziness of the photo and everything, it did take me a while to get things looking exactly how I wanted. I wanted the horse's head to be a little bit sharper than maybe the photo, so I had to sort of work at it, and I was sort of moving things around and changing the eye, and I wasn't because I was thinking that the photo was blurred. I wasn't looking at it close enough. If you're doing any painting and you're working off some source material, whether it be from life and you're out and you're looking at a tree, look at it, really look at it, and then paint what you see, and then look at what you've painted and look at the scene again and compare it. And I'm doing this all the time, and I'll look at something, then look directly at what I'm painting, and I'll think, that's nothing like it. It's nothing like it. It's a different angle. It's smaller. It's askew. There's just things wrong, and then you have to adjust and adjust and adjust. And I think because the photo was so blurred, I wasn't doing that so much in this one, and I was sort of winging it and going by the force, if you like, and feeling it rather than anything else. So anyway, vivid light. I created a new layer with vivid light, the blend mode set to vivid light, because that painting to me looks so dreary and not the bright colors I wanted. So I set the blend mode to vivid light, and then when I applied the color, just look what it does to those areas, even the dark areas. It just makes them pop, and I was able to put color into it, and then with a few strokes I've transformed this dreary painting into this really vibrant, funky looking thing, which I was really pleased with. So now I've got the color I wanted. I actually merged that layer down, and then I created another layer on the top of that and started to paint into those vibrant colors. And I did a lot of blending with this, using the blending brush to sort of just soften edges all the time and keep it blurry, because I didn't want loads of sharp edges, because this is all about movement as well, don't forget. And I want to get this effect that everything is sort of moving. And I'm looking at the eye on the horse, and that's just not quite right yet. It needs a bit of a curve on the right hand side of it, just to where you can see the eyeball, I guess. I noticed I copied the horse's head and pasted that. I thought, I don't want to be painting a complete horse again, but I did change it quite a lot. And now you can see I've created another layer. I've set the blend mode to add, and I've put in all these highlights of all the lights, the light catching the ladies' faces, the legs, and then I used the blending brush to smudge that highlight to give the impression of movement. Well, that's what I'm trying to achieve, this impression of movement, and just blurring all of those colours away. And there we go. That is my fairground ride painted with the gouache brush in Procreate. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, a big thumbs up as always is much appreciated, And if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, because I have tons and tons of videos all about digital painting, and I would love to be sharing them with you. So hopefully I will see you all in the next one. Bye.